The morning sun cast long shadows across the naval training facility as Lieutenant Sarah Chun adjusted her gear one final time. She had been preparing for this moment for months, knowing that today would test everything she had learned during her covert SEAL training. What the other trainees didn't know was that Sarah wasn't just another recruit trying to prove herself. She was an experienced operative who had completed multiple classified missions overseas, now participating in this exercise as part of a special evaluation program. Sarah's journey to this moment had begun 3 years earlier when she was selected for an elite program that few knew existed. The Navy had been quietly recruiting women for specialized SEAL operations, recognizing that certain missions required operatives who could blend into environments where male soldiers would stand out. Sarah had excelled in every aspect of her training, from underwater demolition to advanced combat techniques. But her greatest strength lay in her ability to appear completely ordinary while being extraordinarily capable. The training facility buzzed with activity as dozens of recruits prepared for what they believed was a standard combat readiness drill. The exercise was designed to test their ability to work as a team under extreme pressure, with various scenarios that would push them to their physical and mental limits. What most participants didn't realize was that this particular drill had been carefully orchestrated to evaluate how they would react to unexpected situations and how they treated fellow service members under stress. Sarah had been instructed to maintain her cover as a regular recruit throughout the exercise. Her commanding officers wanted to observe the authentic behavior of the other trainees when they believed they were dealing with someone they perceived as less capable. This wasn't just about testing Sarah's abilities. It was about evaluating the character and leadership potential of the entire group. As the trainees assembled for their briefing, Sarah noticed the subtle glances and whispered comments from some of the male recruits. Despite the military's efforts to promote equality, she was well aware that many still harbored doubts about women's capabilities in combat situations. She had encountered this attitude countless times before, and it no longer bothered her. In fact, she had learned to use these assumptions to her advantage during actual missions. The drill instructor, Sergeant Rodriguez, outlined the day's objectives with his characteristic intensity. The exercise would involve multiple phases, including team-based problem-solving challenges, individual combat scenarios, and a final group mission that would require seamless coordination between all participants. Points would be awarded for both individual performance and team cooperation, with additional emphasis placed on how well each recruit supported their teammates. Sarah found herself assigned to Team Bravo, a group of 8 recruits that included some of the most competitive and aggressive trainees in the program. The team leader was Corporal Mike Davidson, a former college football player who had made it clear from day one that he believed physical strength was the most important qualification for special operations. His second in command was Private First Class Tony Martinez, who had earned a reputation for his quick temper and tendency to challenge anyone he perceived as weak. The first phase of the exercise began with a series of obstacle courses designed to test individual agility, strength, and problem-solving abilities. Sarah completed each challenge with efficient, economical movements that demonstrated her training without revealing the full extent of her capabilities. She finished in the middle of the pack timing-wise, which was exactly where she wanted to be. Too fast would draw unwanted attention. Too slow would potentially compromise the mission objectives her superiors had given her. During the rope climbing exercise, she noticed Davidson struggling with the final portion of the climb. Without hesitation, Sarah positioned herself below him and called out encouragement and technique tips that helped him complete the challenge successfully. This act of teamwork earned her a grudging nod of approval from the team leader, though she could see that Martinez was watching her with suspicion. The second phase involved team-based challenges that required groups to work together to solve complex problems under time pressure. Team Bravo was tasked with disarming a simulated explosive device while under simulated enemy fire. Sarah quickly identified the most efficient approach to the problem and began to suggest a strategy, but Martinez cut her off with a dismissive gesture. "Let the real soldiers handle this," he said, his voice carrying just enough volume for the entire team to hear. "Why don't you just stay back and try not to get in the way?" Sarah felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with being underestimated, but she maintained her composure and stepped back as instructed. She watched as the team struggled with an approach that she could see was fundamentally flawed. The simulated timer continued counting down as Davidson and Martinez argued about the proper sequence for disarming the device. With only minutes remaining, Sarah noticed a detail that the others had missed. The device had a backup trigger that would activate if the primary disarmament sequence was completed incorrectly. She tried to alert the team, but Martinez again dismissed her concerns. "We don't need advice from someone who's probably never seen real action," he snapped. The exercise concluded with Team Bravo failing to disarm the device, resulting in a simulated explosion that would have eliminated their entire unit. As they regrouped for debriefing, Sarah could see the frustration and disappointment on her teammates' faces. She knew that if they had listened to her input, they could have successfully completed the challenge, but she also understood that revealing her true expertise at this point would compromise her mission. During the lunch break, Sarah overheard several of her teammates discussing her performance. The consensus seemed to be that she was trying hard, but simply wasn't cut out for the demands of special operations. Davidson, to his credit, defended her effort and teamwork, but even he expressed doubts about whether she belonged in the program. "She seems like a nice person," he said, "but this isn't about being nice. Lives depend on having people who can perform when everything goes wrong." Sarah understood their perspective, even as she disagreed with their conclusions. What they saw as inadequate performance was actually careful restraint designed to serve a larger purpose. Her real test wasn't about proving her individual capabilities. It was about observing how the team dynamics evolved under pressure and how different personalities responded to challenging situations. The afternoon brought more intensive challenges, including a live-fire exercise where teams had to advance through a series of tactical scenarios while facing opposition from instructors armed with simulation rounds. Sarah's team was performing well overall, but she noticed that Martinez's aggressive approach was starting to create friction within the group. During one particularly intense sequence, Martinez became separated from the main team while pursuing what he believed was a high-value target. Sarah realized that he was walking into a carefully constructed trap that would result in his elimination from the exercise. Despite his earlier treatment of her, she couldn't stand by and watch a fellow service member fail due to tactical errors. Moving with the fluid precision that came from her extensive training, Sarah flanked the opposition position and used a series of diversionary tactics to draw fire away from Martinez's position. Her actions allowed him to regroup with the main team, though the complexity of her maneuvering went largely unnoticed by her teammates, who were focused on their own immediate challenges. As the day progressed, Sarah continued to provide quiet support to her teammates while maintaining her cover as a struggling recruit. She offered water to exhausted team members, provided cover during tactical movements, and consistently demonstrated the kind of situational awareness that comes from extensive combat experience. Yet each time she tried to contribute tactical insights or strategic suggestions, she was either ignored or actively dismissed by Martinez and his supporters. The pattern continued through several more exercises, with Sarah's true capabilities becoming increasingly difficult to conceal. Her muscle memory and training would occasionally surface in ways that were hard to explain as mere natural ability. During a hand-to-hand combat demonstration, she instinctively used an advanced grappling technique that was far beyond what would be expected from a basic recruit. When questioned about where she had learned the move, she deflected by claiming she had picked it up from watching instructional videos. As the first day of the multi-day exercise concluded, Sarah reflected on the complex dynamics she had observed within her team. Davidson had shown genuine leadership potential and a willingness to support struggling team members, even when he doubted their capabilities. Martinez, on the other hand, had consistently demonstrated the kind of attitude that could prove dangerous in actual combat situations, where teamwork and mutual support were essential for survival. The evening briefing revealed that Team Bravo had performed adequately overall, but had significant room for improvement in the areas of communication and collective problem-solving. Sergeant Rodriguez's critique focused particularly on the team's tendency to dismiss input from certain members and their failure to utilize all available resources effectively. "A chain is only as strong as its weakest link," Rodriguez concluded, "but sometimes what you think is the weakest link is actually your greatest asset." Tomorrow's challenges will test your ability to recognize and utilize the full potential of every team member. As the recruits settled into their barracks for the night, Sarah knew that the real tests were still ahead. Her mission required her to maintain her cover while gathering intelligence about team dynamics and individual character assessments. But she was also beginning to realize that some of her teammates' attitudes toward perceived weakness or difference could have serious implications for unit cohesion and mission success in actual combat situations. The stage was set for the confrontations and revelations that would define the remainder of the exercise, testing not only individual capabilities, but also the fundamental values and assumptions that each recruit brought to their service. The second day of the exercise began before dawn with an unexpected wake-up call. Sirens blared throughout the facility as recruits were roused from sleep and ordered to assemble in full gear within 5 minutes. Sarah moved with practiced efficiency, her body automatically responding to the emergency protocols she had learned during her actual SEAL training. She was dressed and ready before most of her teammates had even located their equipment. Team Bravo assembled in the pre-dawn darkness, with several members still struggling to adjust their gear properly. Sarah noticed that Private Johnson was having difficulty with his tactical vest, the straps tangled in a way that would compromise both mobility and safety. Without drawing attention to herself, she moved to assist him, quickly resolving the issue with the kind of expertise that comes from countless equipment checks in real operational environments. "Thanks," Johnson whispered, grateful for the help. "How did you figure that out so fast?" Sarah shrugged, maintaining her cover. "Just got lucky, I guess." Sergeant Rodriguez appeared as the teams finished assembling, his expression more serious than usual. "Today's exercise has been modified based on intelligence we received overnight," he announced. "This is no longer a training simulation. We have reason to believe that hostile agents have infiltrated the facility with the intention of gathering intelligence about our training methods and capabilities." The announcement sent a ripple of tension through the assembled recruits. What had begun as a challenging but routine exercise had suddenly become something far more serious. Sarah felt her own pulse quicken, though for different reasons than her teammates. Her handlers had briefed her about the possibility that the exercise might evolve into a real security situation, but she hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. "Your mission," Rodriguez continued, "is to identify and neutralize the hostile agents while protecting classified training materials stored in Building 7. This is not a drill. You will be using live ammunition, and the threats you face may be equally real." Team Bravo was assigned to secure the eastern approach to Building 7, a route that offered multiple concealment opportunities for potential infiltrators. As they moved into position, Sarah could see that her teammates were struggling to adjust their mindset from training exercise to actual security operation. The transition from simulated combat to real potential danger was challenging even for experienced soldiers. Martinez took point, his aggressive personality making him eager to engage any threat they might encounter. Davidson positioned the team in a defensive formation that showed his understanding of basic tactical principles, but Sarah could see several vulnerabilities in their setup. She wanted to suggest improvements, but knew that any tactical expertise she displayed might compromise her cover at a critical moment. The team held their position for nearly 2 hours, watching for signs of hostile activity. During this time, Sarah observed her teammates' behavior under genuine stress. Johnson remained calm and focused, demonstrating the kind of steady temperament that would serve him well in special operations. Martinez grew increasingly agitated as time passed without contact, his finger hovering near his weapon's trigger in a way that violated basic safety protocols. Around mid-morning, Sarah's enhanced situational awareness picked up subtle signs of movement in the tree line approximately 200 meters from their position. Years of operational experience had taught her to recognize the almost imperceptible disturbances that indicated human presence in natural environments. She studied the area carefully, using peripheral vision techniques that allowed her to detect motion without obviously staring. 2 figures were moving through the forest with a level of skill that suggested military training. They were staying low, using available cover effectively, and advancing in a pattern that would bring them within striking distance of Building 7 within the next 30 minutes. Sarah realized that these were likely the hostile agents Rodriguez had warned them about, and that Team Bravo was the only unit positioned to intercept them. She tried to alert Davidson to the approaching threat, but her warning was dismissed as nervousness. Martinez was even more blunt in his response. "Stop jumping at shadows," he told her. "If there was really someone out there, those of us with actual training would have spotted them already." Sarah found herself in an impossible position. Her mission required her to maintain her cover as an inexperienced recruit, but her training and instincts demanded that she take action to neutralize a legitimate threat to facility security. She watched as the hostile agents continued their approach, knowing that within minutes they would be close enough to launch an attack that could compromise the entire operation. The situation reached a critical point when one of the approaching figures raised what appeared to be a rocket-propelled grenade launcher, targeting Building 7. Sarah knew that she had seconds to act before classified materials and potentially human lives were lost. Her cover mission became secondary to her fundamental duty as a Navy SEAL to protect American military assets and personnel. Moving with lightning speed, Sarah broke from her position and sprinted toward the hostile agent's location. Her teammates called after her in confusion and alarm, but she couldn't take time to explain her actions. Using terrain features for concealment, she closed the distance between herself and the threats in a matter of seconds, employing advanced infiltration techniques that she had perfected during actual combat missions. The first hostile agent never saw her coming. Sarah neutralized him with a precisely applied chokehold that rendered him unconscious within seconds. The second agent had just enough time to register her presence before she disarmed him with a series of moves that demonstrated years of specialized training. Both threats were secured before they could transmit any intelligence or cause damage to the facility. As Sarah zip-tied the unconscious agents and secured their weapons, she heard the sound of approaching footsteps. Team Bravo had followed her position and was now witnessing the aftermath of her actions. The expressions on their faces ranged from confusion to amazement as they tried to process what they were seeing. Martinez was the first to speak, his voice filled with disbelief. "What the hell just happened here? How did you?" His question was interrupted by the arrival of Sergeant Rodriguez and a team of security personnel who had been monitoring the situation. Rodriguez took one look at the secured hostile agents and the precision of Sarah's work, then turned to address Team Bravo. "Recruits," he said, "I'd like you to meet Lieutenant Sarah Chun, United States Navy SEALs. She's been operating undercover as part of this exercise to evaluate team dynamics and individual character under stress." The revelation hit Team Bravo like a physical blow. Everything they thought they knew about their teammate had just been turned upside down. The woman they had dismissed as inexperienced and potentially incompetent had just single-handedly neutralized a serious security threat that none of them had even detected. Davidson was the first to recover from his shock. "You're telling us that she's been a SEAL this whole time? That she's been watching us make fools of ourselves while she could have been leading the team?" Rodriguez nodded. "Lieutenant Chun has completed multiple classified missions and has more combat experience than the rest of your team combined. Her performance during this exercise has been carefully measured against your responses to her presence and contributions." Sarah could see the wheels turning in her teammates' minds as they began to reassess every interaction they had had with her over the past 2 days. Martinez looked particularly uncomfortable as he recalled his dismissive treatment and derogatory comments. The weight of his behavior was clearly beginning to sink in. "The purpose of this exercise," Rodriguez continued, "was not just to test your tactical abilities, but to evaluate how you respond to leadership and expertise that doesn't fit your preconceived notions. How you treat teammates who you perceive as different or less capable is often more important than your individual skills." Johnson stepped forward, his expression showing both embarrassment and respect. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology. We all do. You could have taken charge from the beginning and made us all look better, but instead you let us learn from our mistakes." Sarah appreciated his sentiment, but she could see that the revelation had created a complex set of emotions within the team. Some members were clearly struggling with the fact that they had been observed and evaluated without their knowledge. Others were beginning to understand the larger lessons that the exercise was designed to teach. Martinez's reaction was more complicated. His identity as the team's alpha male had been built on assumptions about strength and capability that had just been fundamentally challenged. "This whole thing was a setup," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of anger and humiliation. "How are we supposed to trust anyone if people aren't who they claim to be?" Sarah understood his frustration, but she also recognized the dangerous attitudes that his response revealed. "In real operations," she told him, "you often have to work with people whose backgrounds and capabilities are classified. Learning to recognize and respect competence, regardless of its source, can mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of additional security teams and medical personnel to process the captured hostile agents. As the immediate crisis was resolved, Rodriguez announced that the exercise would continue with Sarah operating in her true capacity as a SEAL instructor and evaluator. "The remaining phases of this exercise will test your ability to adapt to new leadership and incorporate lessons learned from today's events," he explained. "Lieutenant Chun will be taking a more active role in your training, and your performance will be evaluated based on how well you respond to her guidance." The shift in team dynamics was immediately apparent. Where before Sarah's suggestions had been ignored or dismissed, now her every word was given serious consideration. The change was so dramatic that it actually created new problems, with some team members becoming overly deferential and losing their own initiative and decision-making capabilities. Davidson proved to be the most adaptable leader, finding a balance between respecting Sarah's expertise and maintaining his own authority as team leader. He approached her privately during a break in the exercise. "I need to understand something," he said. "How much of what happened over the past 2 days was you holding back, and how much was us not seeing what was right in front of us?" Sarah considered her response carefully. "A little of both," she admitted. "I was under orders to maintain my cover, but there were also times when you and the team weren't ready to hear what I had to offer. Leadership isn't just about having the right answers. It's about creating an environment where those answers can be heard and implemented effectively." The afternoon brought new challenges designed to test the team's ability to function with their revised understanding of each member's capabilities. Sarah found herself in the unusual position of providing guidance, while still allowing the official team leaders to maintain their authority. It was a delicate balance that required all of her diplomatic skills in addition to her tactical expertise. During a complex urban warfare simulation, the team's performance improved dramatically. Communication became more effective, tactical decisions were more sound, and the overall coordination reached levels that had been impossible when personality conflicts and prejudices were interfering with operations. However, the improvement wasn't universal. Martinez continued to struggle with the change dynamics, his confidence shaken by the revelation that his assumptions about strength and capability had been so fundamentally wrong. His performance became erratic, alternating between aggressive overcompensation and passive withdrawal from decision-making responsibilities. The situation came to a head during a hostage rescue simulation. Martinez, attempting to prove his worth, ignored established protocols and pursued a course of action that put both the simulated hostages and his teammates at risk. When Sarah attempted to redirect his approach, he exploded in frustration and anger. "I'm sick of being managed by someone who's been lying to us from day one," he shouted. "How do we know anything you're telling us is real? How do we know this isn't just another test where you're evaluating how we respond to being manipulated?" His outburst revealed the deeper issues that the exercise had been designed to surface. The question of trust, leadership, and how preconceptions affect team performance had moved beyond academic discussion into real emotional territory that would need to be addressed before the team could function effectively. The tension that had been building within Team Bravo finally erupted during the hostage rescue simulation. Martinez's accusation hung in the air like smoke from a discharged weapon, and Sarah could see that his emotional outburst had struck a nerve with other team members who were also struggling to process the revelations of the past day. Davidson stepped between Martinez and Sarah, his leadership instincts kicking in as he tried to defuse the situation. "Stand down, Martinez," he ordered. "We're all trying to figure this out, but losing control isn't going to help anyone." But Martinez was beyond reasoning at this point. The careful facade he had maintained as the team's aggressive alpha had crumbled under the weight of having his assumptions challenged so dramatically. Easy for you to say, he shot back. You weren't the one making an ass of yourself in front of someone who could have corrected every mistake we made, but chose to watch us fail instead. Sarah recognized the signs of a psychological break under extreme stress. She had seen it before in actual combat situations, where soldiers sometimes reached a point where their ability to process conflicting information simply shut down. Martinez wasn't just angry about being deceived. He was experiencing a fundamental crisis of confidence that threatened to undermine everything he thought he knew about himself and his capabilities. You're right to feel frustrated, Sarah said, her voice calm but firm. This situation was designed to be psychologically challenging, and part of the purpose was to see how individuals respond when their assumptions are challenged. But, right now, we have simulated hostages whose lives depend on us working together effectively. The reminder of their mission responsibilities seemed to penetrate Martinez's emotional fog, but only partially. He was clearly struggling between his professional training, which demanded that he complete the mission regardless of personal feelings, and his emotional need to process what felt like a betrayal of trust. Johnson, who had been quietly observing the exchange, stepped forward with an insight that surprised everyone. Maybe that's the real test, he said. Maybe the question isn't whether we can perform when everything goes according to plan, but whether we can still function as a team when everything we thought we knew gets turned upside down. His observation seemed to shift the dynamic within the group. Instead of focusing on the deception that had been practiced on them, they began to consider the larger implications of what they were learning about themselves and about the nature of teamwork under pressure. Sarah seized on this moment of clarity to refocus the team's attention on their immediate objectives. In real operations, she explained, you often receive new intelligence that changes everything you thought you knew about a mission. The ability to adapt quickly to new information, regardless of its source, is what separates elite units from ordinary soldiers. The hostage rescue simulation resumed with a dramatically different dynamic. Davidson maintained his role as team leader, but now he actively sought input from all team members, including Sarah. The decision-making process became more collaborative, with each person's expertise being recognized and utilized effectively. Sarah found herself in the unique position of providing tactical guidance while still allowing the team to maintain ownership of their decisions. It required a delicate balance of assertiveness and restraint that challenged her own leadership skills in ways that traditional command structures never had. The simulation involved a multi-story building where terrorists had barricaded themselves with civilian hostages. Intelligence indicated that the hostiles were prepared to execute prisoners if they detected any rescue attempt, making stealth and precision essential for mission success. Team Bravo's approach to the problem demonstrated how much they had learned over the past 2 days. Instead of the aggressive, direct assault that Martinez might have favored earlier, they developed a sophisticated plan that utilized each member's specific strengths while minimizing risks to the hostages. Davidson coordinated the overall strategy, using his natural leadership abilities and tactical knowledge. Johnson's steady temperament made him ideal for the precision shooting required to neutralize specific threats. Even Martinez, despite his emotional struggles, contributed valuable insights about building layouts and potential weak points in the terrorist positions. Sarah's role became that of a consultant and backup, providing expertise when requested while allowing the team to build confidence in their own decision-making abilities. It was a more complex form of leadership than simply taking charge, requiring her to guide without controlling and to support without undermining. The execution of their rescue plan unfolded with remarkable precision. The team moved through the building like a well-coordinated machine, each member fulfilling their assigned role while maintaining awareness of the overall mission objectives. Communication was clear and efficient, tactical movements were smooth and purposeful, and the coordination between team members reached a level that would have been impossible during their first day's exercises. When they encountered an unexpected complication, additional hostiles in a location not covered by their initial intelligence, the team adapted seamlessly. Sarah watched with professional satisfaction as Davidson made rapid tactical adjustments while Johnson and Martinez implemented new approaches without losing focus on their primary objectives. The simulation concluded successfully with all hostages rescued and all hostile threats neutralized. As the team emerged from the building, their expressions reflected a mixture of accomplishment and new understanding about their own capabilities and potential. Sergeant Rodriguez was waiting for them with a detailed debrief of their performance. The improvement in your tactical execution and team coordination over the past 48 hours has been remarkable, he told them. You've demonstrated the kind of adaptability and growth mindset that we look for in special operations candidates. But Rodriguez's praise was accompanied by pointed observations about the psychological aspects of their journey. The most important lesson you've learned isn't about tactics or weapons handling, he said. It's about the danger of making assumptions about people's capabilities based on superficial characteristics or preconceived notions. The truth of this observation was evident in how dramatically Team Bravo's performance had improved once they began recognizing and utilizing all available expertise, regardless of its source. The change wasn't just about having access to Sarah's knowledge. It was about creating a team environment where everyone's contributions were valued and considered. Martinez, who had been quiet since his emotional outburst, finally spoke up. I need to apologize, he said, addressing both Sarah and the rest of the team. Not just for how I treated Lieutenant Chun, but for the attitude I brought to this entire exercise. I let my ego get in the way of what should have been my primary focus, mission success and team effectiveness. His apology demonstrated genuine self-awareness and growth, but Sarah could see that he was still struggling with the deeper implications of what he had learned about himself. The realization that his assumptions about strength, leadership, and capability had been fundamentally flawed would require more than a single conversation to fully process. The goal wasn't to embarrass anyone or to prove a point about gender roles, Sarah explained. It was to create a situation where natural team dynamics could emerge without the influence of rank or known credentials. What you've learned about yourselves and about each other over the past few days is more valuable than any tactical skills you might have acquired. Davidson nodded thoughtfully. I'm beginning to understand why this exercise was structured the way it was. In real operations, you don't always know who you're working with or what their background might be. Learning to recognize and utilize competence wherever you find it could be critical for mission success. The debriefing continued with detailed analysis of specific tactical decisions and their outcomes. Sarah found herself explaining not just what the team had done right, but why certain approaches had been more effective than others. Her explanations provided insights into the thinking processes that guided elite special operations tactics. As the formal debrief concluded, the team was given time for personal reflection and informal discussion. Sarah noticed that the group dynamics had fundamentally shifted from the hierarchical, competitive atmosphere that had characterized their first day to something more collaborative and mutually supportive. Johnson approached her during this break with a question that revealed his growing understanding of the exercise's deeper purposes. Ma'am, how often do situations like this happen in real operations? I mean, working with people whose capabilities you don't fully understand. Sarah smiled at his perceptiveness. More often than you might think. Special operations often involve working with local assets, other agency personnel, or military units from allied nations. Sometimes the most valuable team member is the one you least expect, and learning to recognize that quickly can be the difference between success and failure. The conversation expanded to include other team members, each offering their own insights and questions about what they had experienced. The discussion revealed how much they had all grown over the past few days, not just in terms of tactical skills, but in their understanding of leadership, teamwork, and the complexities of human psychology under pressure. Martinez's contributions to this discussion were particularly revealing. Despite his earlier emotional struggles, he demonstrated a level of self-awareness and analytical thinking that suggested significant potential for future development. I keep thinking about all the times in civilian life when I probably made the same kinds of assumptions, he admitted. How many opportunities did I miss because I didn't recognize what people were really capable of? His insight touched on one of the exercise's most important lessons, that the prejudices and assumptions that interfere with military effectiveness often mirror similar problems in civilian society. The skills they were developing in recognizing and utilizing human potential would serve them well beyond their military careers. As the day concluded, Team Bravo prepared for the final phase of their exercise, scheduled for the following morning. They had evolved from a collection of individuals competing for recognition into a genuinely collaborative unit capable of complex tactical operations. Sarah reflected on her own growth during the exercise. Maintaining her cover while observing team dynamics had challenged her in ways that traditional leadership roles never had. She had learned as much about herself and her own assumptions as the recruits had learned about theirs. The final phase of the exercise began at dawn with an unexpected twist that would test everything Team Bravo had learned over the past 3 days. Sergeant Rodriguez assembled all participating teams for a briefing that would fundamentally alter the nature of their remaining challenges. Intelligence has confirmed that yesterday's security breach was part of a larger operation, Rodriguez announced to the assembled recruits. Hostile agents have established a command center in the mountains overlooking this facility, and they're using it to coordinate surveillance and potential sabotage operations against multiple military installations in the region. The mission parameters were unlike anything the recruits had faced during their training. Instead of controlled exercises with predetermined outcomes, they would be conducting an actual counterintelligence operation against real threats. The stakes had escalated from training evaluation to genuine national security concerns. Team Bravo would be working alongside 2 other teams in a coordinated assault on the enemy position. Sarah's role had evolved from undercover evaluator to active mission commander, a transition that required her teammates to adapt quickly to taking orders from someone they had initially dismissed as inexperienced. The target was a fortified observation post located on a mountain ridge approximately 15 kilometers from the training facility. Intelligence indicated that the position was defended by at least 12 hostile agents with military training and sophisticated equipment. The terrain was challenging, offering limited approach routes and excellent defensive positions for the enemy forces. Sarah found herself in the unusual position of planning a real combat operation with soldiers who were still processing the psychological revelations of the past few days. The mission's success would depend not only on their tactical skills, but on their ability to function as a cohesive unit despite the complex dynamics that had emerged during the exercise. Davidson had matured significantly as a leader throughout the exercise, and now he demonstrated his growth by seamlessly integrating his authority as team leader with deference to Sarah's superior experience and mission command responsibilities. "What do you need from us, Lieutenant?" he asked during the initial planning session. Sarah appreciated his straightforward approach, but she was also conscious of the need to maintain team morale and individual confidence. "This mission succeeds or fails based on how well we work together," she told the assembled team. "Everyone's expertise and perspective will be essential. My job is to coordinate our efforts, not to replace your judgment and initiative." The mission plan that emerged from their collaborative planning session was sophisticated and multi-layered. Team Bravo would approach the target from the eastern slope, the most challenging route, but also the one least likely to be heavily defended. Their role would be to establish overwatch positions and provide precision fire support, while the other teams conducted the main assault from more obvious approaches. Martinez had requested to serve as the team's designated marksman, a role that would put him in a position of significant responsibility while utilizing his aggressive tendencies in a constructive manner. His emotional breakthrough during the previous day's exercises had led to a new level of self-awareness that was now translating into more focused and disciplined tactical thinking. Johnson would serve as the team's communication specialist and secondary medic, roles that suited his steady temperament and attention to detail. His growth throughout the exercise had been perhaps the most subtle, but also the most consistent, demonstrating the kind of reliable competence that formed the backbone of successful special operations units. The approach to the target began before sunrise, with Team Bravo moving through mountainous terrain that tested both their physical conditioning and their navigation skills. Sarah led the movement, but she was careful to rotate point duties among team members to maintain their development and confidence. The hike took nearly 4 hours, with the team moving slowly to avoid detection while dealing with steep slopes, loose rock, and dense vegetation. The physical demands of the approach served as a final test of the team's conditioning and mental toughness. As they neared their objective, Sarah called for a reconnaissance halt to gather intelligence about enemy positions and defenses. Using advanced observation techniques, the team was able to identify guard positions, communication equipment, and potential weak points in the enemy defensive setup. The intelligence they gathered revealed that the hostile forces were more sophisticated and better organized than initial reports had suggested. The command post was equipped with advanced surveillance equipment, and the defensive positions showed evidence of professional military engineering. This isn't just a surveillance post, Sarah observed during their final planning session. This is a full-scale intelligence gathering operation with the capability to coordinate attacks against multiple targets. Taking it down is going to require everything we've learned about working together effectively. The assault began at precisely noon, coordinated with the other team's approaches from different directions. Team Bravo's role required them to provide precision fire support while remaining concealed from enemy observation. The success of the entire operation would depend on their ability to neutralize specific targets at critical moments. Martinez's performance as designated marksman was exemplary, demonstrating not only his shooting skills, but also his ability to maintain discipline under extreme pressure. When enemy forces attempted to reposition heavy weapons that threatened the main assault teams, his precise fire eliminated the threat before it could become critical. Johnson's coordination of communications between the three teams proved essential as the tactical situation evolved rapidly. His calm, clear voice provided the backbone of coordination that kept the complex operation running smoothly despite multiple unexpected complications. Davidson's leadership during the assault phase showcased how much he had grown throughout the exercise. When Sarah was forced to focus on coordinating with other team commanders, he seamlessly took tactical control of Team Bravo's immediate operations, making decisions that demonstrated both confidence and sound judgment. The assault reached its critical phase when enemy forces attempted to destroy sensitive intelligence materials rather than allow them to be captured. Sarah realized that immediate action was required to prevent the loss of potentially vital national security information. Moving with the fluid precision that had become her trademark, Sarah led a direct assault on the command post itself. Her teammates followed without hesitation, their trust in her leadership now complete despite the complex journey that had brought them to this point. The final engagement was brief, but intense. Enemy resistance was professional and determined, but Team Bravo's coordination and tactical precision proved superior. Within minutes, the command post was secured and all hostile forces were either captured or neutralized. The intelligence materials recovered from the enemy position revealed the scope of the surveillance operation that had been conducted against military facilities throughout the region. Computer files, communication intercepts, and tactical plans provided evidence of a sophisticated espionage network that posed significant threats to national security. As military intelligence specialists arrived to process the captured materials and prisoners, Team Bravo reflected on the remarkable journey they had completed over the past 4 days. What had begun as a routine training exercise had evolved into a real combat operation that tested every aspect of their individual and collective capabilities. Rodriguez's final debrief focused on the broader lessons that emerged from their experience. The transformation this team has undergone represents the kind of growth and adaptability that we hope to see in all special operations candidates, he told them. But the most important lesson isn't about tactics or weapons handling. It's about the power of recognizing and utilizing human potential wherever you find it. Sarah's evaluation of her teammates reflected the dramatic changes she had observed in each individual. Davidson had evolved from a competent but conventional leader into someone capable of complex tactical thinking and adaptive decision-making. Johnson had demonstrated the kind of steady reliability that formed the foundation of elite units. Even Martinez had transformed his aggressive tendencies into focused determination and tactical discipline. The exercise's conclusion brought with it formal recognition of the team's accomplishments. All members of Team Bravo received commendations for their performance during the counterintelligence operation, with special recognition for their ability to adapt and grow under challenging circumstances. Martinez approached Sarah privately as the formal ceremonies concluded. "Lieutenant, I need to thank you for something that goes beyond this exercise," he said. "You could have written me off when I had my breakdown, but Instead, you helped me understand what I needed to change about myself. That's going to make a difference for the rest of my career." His gratitude highlighted one of the exercise's most important outcomes, the development of self-awareness and emotional intelligence alongside tactical skills. The lessons they had learned about recognizing potential, adapting to new information, and working effectively with diverse teammates would serve them throughout their military careers and beyond. Sarah's own reflection on the exercise revealed how much she had learned about leadership and the complexities of human dynamics under stress. Her experience as an undercover evaluator had challenged her in ways that traditional command responsibilities never had, requiring her to guide and influence without the benefit of formal authority. The final report on the exercise would become part of the permanent record for improving special operations training programs. The insights gained about team dynamics, leadership development, and the importance of recognizing human potential regardless of superficial characteristics would influence military training for years to come. As Team Bravo prepared to return to their regular training schedules, they carried with them not just enhanced tactical skills, but a deeper understanding of what it meant to be part of an elite military unit. They had learned that true strength came not from individual prowess, but from the ability to recognize, respect, and utilize the capabilities of every team member. The experience had transformed them from a collection of competitive individuals into a genuinely collaborative unit capable of adapting to complex challenges and achieving objectives that none of them could have accomplished alone. Most importantly, they had learned that assumptions and prejudices were not just personal failings, but operational vulnerabilities that could compromise mission success and put lives at risk. For Sarah, the exercise represented a successful conclusion to an innovative training program that had proven the value of challenging conventional assumptions about capability and leadership. The lessons learned would continue to influence her own approach to leadership and her understanding of what made elite military units truly effective. The mountain compound that had served as their final objective was now secured and would be thoroughly investigated by intelligence specialists. But for Team Bravo, the real victory was not the successful completion of their mission, but the transformation they had undergone as individuals and as a team, a transformation that had turned initial prejudices and assumptions into mutual respect and collaborative effectiveness.